Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I have with me Marco Lau. Marco is the Director of Data Science and Analytics at the publishing organization Penguin Random House. Very happy to have Marco on the show. We're going to be talking about how data sciences can help create value in publishing context and at Penguin Random House. So Marco, thank you for coming along to the show. Great to have you here.
Yeah, hello, Jason. Thank you for having me here.
No problem at all. So right, lots to unpick just in me saying who you are and what we're going to talk about. So let's start with the who you are bit. Bit about you, bit about your background, and the role that you've currently got would be a great place to start.
Yeah, sure. I was educated in New Zealand, the
Nice.
University of Auckland. So if any listeners you use R, that's where it's I've started.
Mhm.
And I did my degrees in marketing, computer science, and statistics. So from that sort of very early on, I was fascinated by how to use statistics techniques and coding and understanding consumer behavior. And so, sort of from there, I started my career a bit in market research and direct marketing, looking at supermarket purchasing.
Ah,
Uh,
as all good marketers do.
exactly,
Supermarkets, research, and direct
exactly.
mail. Yeah,
Yep,
good
yep,
route.
yep. Shopping baskets, customer segmentation, all of that.
Okay.
Then I came to the UK and then switched business to more of the client side, and I became a senior data scientist at Skype. It's a tech app, and I'm sure a lot of you have used Skype before, calling your friends and family overseas and doing video calls, business meetings. So my role there, it's more of continue to use some of those techniques to understand who are our users, how do we prevent churn, but at the same time also I start to tap into supporting engineers, product managers, A/B testing a lot of features when they have to ship new features onto the app.
Right.
Um, yeah, and then this role came along, and we're working for a publisher. We are the biggest English language publisher in the world, and the ask is very clear from day one: is to help them sort out pricing and how to through pricing maximize our sales, protecting author revenue as well as maximizing reach. And that was a very interesting challenge where it was very clear from day one there's no single customer view. So it was completely outside of my comfort zone. But nonetheless, there are a lot of overlaps in terms of my experience in retail, understanding consumers,
Mm.
and using those kind of analytic skills and machine learning skills that I've sort of built throughout my data scientist years going into this role. And yeah, and pricing led to competitor intelligence, become understanding how do we maximize search and discoverability for
Mm.
our books. And at the moment, when we say publisher, when we say books, you can think about bookshops and supermarkets, but also um, a very big presence. We're selling books online.
Mm.
So, and that sort of enables a lot of new data points, despite not having a single customer view, that nonetheless have a lot of commercial opportunities for us to play with. And that, interestingly, my journey started with pricing, become all these other areas that people
Mm.
come to us for within the business. And here I am. We launched a data science team officially a couple of years ago after years of dipping into doing all the analytics support for the business.
Right. Oh, great. Well, loads to dip into there, and really interesting kind of journey through sort of where you've come from and the work you're doing now. The Penguin Random House business. Can you just give us a little sort of feel for that? Because not there's obviously been a merger recently. It's, as you say, large
Yeah,
global, one of the largest English publishing companies and that sort of thing. So just a bit about the business and also a
yeah.
little bit about what sort of the role of a publisher, because there's a few angles to that in terms of authors and I'm assuming Amazon and lots of sort of like you publish but you also selling books, so how just the value chain of the business as well would be really interesting.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess it's from the logo a penguin, if you go to the bookshop and you see a book with a penguin logo, and obviously that's us. But we have a lot of other publishing companies as well within the umbrella of Penguin. You don't necessarily see the Penguin logo, but I would say a significant proportion of books, when you go onto Amazon, you go to a bookshop in the UK, for example, you go to Waterstones or WH Smith, you will see a lot of books, and there's a very good chance that they're published by us. Examples: Jamie Oliver, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, Ottolenghi, and then all the way to a lot of big fiction brands. We have Lee Child, we have Richard Osman, just to name a few. And our catalog runs into tens of thousands, and new publications are in the thousands each year. Right. So yeah, if we count the number of books as in SKUs from a supermarket angle, we're pretty much running into the same number of SKUs or number of books. In terms of how we sell, and so we're a publisher, we don't directly sell to our consumers. They all go via retailers, bookshops, online, and it's not only a physical book, but we're also doing audiobooks as well as ebooks.
Right. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So I can imagine that certainly from a data science point of view, but from a business point of view, you've got that whole kind of, you've got engagement with authors, you've got
Absolutely.
manufacturing of the book, you've got distribution of the books to the right retailers, you've got understanding the consumer so that you can work with your partners, sales channel partners to promote the books and get them out in front of people. So I can imagine there's quite a lot of kind of different angles to this, rather than just sort of an author writing a book. There's a lot to that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So internally, we have teams who are more about, as you say, it's about relationship with author, editorial. It's about getting the right content and supporting our authors to get the content into shape. And then there's also the rest of us, operating in a kind of a more like a blue chip retail capacity, with sales, with marketing, with finance. And obviously we have technology, which is also absolutely important, and increasingly this is something that we have a very huge presence of technology in the business, and it's to fully deliver, because everybody recognizes we need that throughout the entire value chain.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Well, thanks for summarizing that. It's good to, not everyone necessarily understands how sort of publishing works and the full breadth of what they do. So I appreciate that. In terms of data science, then, amongst all of that, where do you sit and how do you interface with the organization? How does that sort of hang together?
Yeah. So my team sits with sales, and I know, when I say that to people, they will be caught a bit caught by surprise. Then you sit finance or technology, but I think sales is our biggest consumers of data within the organization. Day in, day out, we are constantly going to work with our customers, bookshops, online retailers. And not just in the UK, many across the world, and we constantly need numbers to inform the performance of our books. What do we anticipate this book's going to sell? The kind of information that we need to prepare ourselves to work with our retailers to understand how many books we need to put on shelf, how many books we need to prepare ourselves to go to market with. What are the type of books that we can push more, because there's certain times of the year, Mother's Day, we might look at certain types of books. World Cup, can we think about more biographies of footballers? And then obviously end of the year, Christmas, then gifts. What are people thinking about, buying for their family and loved ones? And I think we have a very, a healthy culture within the sales team, is to really understand what books we need to push, and that comes to a lot of commercial decisions as well. It could be promotions, it could be how do we grow a little bit more, what else is selling in the market? Are we tapping into those needs of our readers? And then there's also a piece is about I guess popular trends, like culturally, like what's relevant to books. As an example, when Trump was inaugurated in 2017, 1984, which is our publication, spiked multiple times in sales, and that's caught in the media as well. So so I guess that sort of speaks to a lot of the demands for our team to sort of deliver competitor intelligence, develop a market performance, a bit of forecasting, anticipating what's on the horizon, and then using data to inform the right level of pricing, the right way we could influence our books to increase our visibility of our books online through search engines as well.
It's interesting. Do you are you kind of led? Are you led by the author? So author decides they want to write a book, and then it gets published, and then you try and get people to buy it. Or do you go, here's what's interesting, here's what the consumer wants, here's what's culturally relevant, as you say, here's what's happening in the moment, here's the macro thing that's the focus, and then we're going to either go and find authors that fit that, or we're going to speak to the authors that we already work with and get them to focus on books that are focused on consumer. Which way round does it go? Is it a bit of both, or is it actually just all author driven because it's an art and that's where the focus needs to be?
I definitely think it's a bit of both, and this is where our editors and agents work very closely with each other. And I think it also depends on the different types of publishing that we're considering. For a big brand author, then definitely it's about, okay, like are they published by us, or who else are out there that help us to think about, like, who else that we should be publishing. But then there's also for example, in the more sort of non-fiction sense, books that it's about understanding the human needs, what's trending. And I think that we don't necessarily know the author, or the authors become a bit more sort of anonymous. It's more about the need of the market, and that's where we need to be very I guess proactive to our best ability to understand what are the pockets of trends emerging. I think a lot of examples are recent, especially in recent years, is on well-being, on mental health, but also the wider conversation in terms of equality, racial equality, LGBTQ rights as well. And so those needs do inform us to consider, are there any books that we should publish and tap into alongside fiction? What are the big brands that will really help us as a publisher?
Right. So but as you say, a bit of both, and it's that fine sort of balance, isn't it, between what does author want to write about, and obviously this isn't just fiction, it's non-fiction, there's all sorts of stuff, but versus what's the demand for and thirst for content, and also sort of that whole content piece, because there is so much content around. This is almost traditional long form, and you got to tap into a market that wants traditional long form. Which maybe, I don't know if that's in lower demand these days. I'm sure it's not in reality, but there's so much content, there's so much that can be consumed through social channels and all sorts of other channels, that actually you're sort of, I suppose you're fighting for share of time, because a book is a commitment, right? So do you sort of track and look at that, and do you do more than just in inverted commas books, because of the way people consume content now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest example, it's the growth in audiobooks. It's just a completely different experience in terms of how our readers experience the content that we publish. And and yeah, interestingly, how that balanced out to print as well. I think probably I would say more than 10, 15 years ago when the ebook format came about, it sort of it really challenged everybody's thinking, and it creates a bit of wonder to say, oh, it's ebook's going to completely replace print.
Yeah.
But fast
Yeah.
forward to where we are now, ebook has this space. There's a group of audience who love to enjoy the contents on an e-reader.
Yeah.
But interestingly, we also see that kind of one doesn't replace the other.
Right.
Print sales has been resilient and actually has not sort of going in decline. And then very interestingly, now we see addressing the sort of an increasing new way to consume content, and then we start to see the emergence of audiobooks. And
so it sort of increase. So instead of cannibalizing a certain format like print, it's actually almost increasing the audience. It's increasing Absolutely. Who has access to, I know my kids hate to read, but they will listen to stuff. So maybe audiobooks is the way to go. I know with them, certainly short term, while they're in this kind of transition phase of going from reading every night to, making their own choices. So it's opened up a new audience essentially.
Definitely. And I think one example I can give is like some of the understanding in terms of how audio format is consumed. When we look at print format, what we wouldn't think about is that actually we have people who like to listen to the audiobooks in the car. Without that, if we're only serving print format, like that's a need that we never tap into. So this is exactly an example where we managed to sort of open the market a little bit wider.
It's a good point, and educate that there's new times and places for reading.
Exactly.
Before you could only read when you're on, when you're on holiday and when you're on a train and when you're sat at home in the evening. But actually, when you're at the gym, when you're running, when you're in the car, when you're in a plane, all these sort of new areas where traditionally you might not be able to sit and sort of open a book. That's really interesting. So all of that, I mean, that's all. None of that has been through the lens of data science. That's all me and you talking about sort of how publishing works and how consumers interact with content. And so how has data science played a part in all those things? Because I mean, my brain's sort of spinning with where it can go, but it'd be really interesting to sort of like hear some of the areas where, to help understand the consumer, to help make sure you've got the right authors, to all these kind of things. It'd be really interesting to hear a few examples. If you can sort of talk through some of those, that'd be great.
So I think I would say understanding the nature of the business and how we operate, and that's really, really important. I think we as a publisher, I think from the first day many years ago where the business decided to hire data professionals, I think there's a recognition of like data is important. And I would say my journey over the last few years is try to help the business and work with the business to understand how data relates to all these different commercial opportunities.
Right.
On the author side, so I would say we kind of approach to sort of commercial or growth opportunities in two different ways, and which we touch on. One is about content. One is about understanding what books to publish, who are the authors that we should be considering, and then that taps into what data do we have in terms of that gives us an indication of trends. And our products are books, not commodity, and that in itself taps into a lot of text data opportunities. We can use machines and NLP for us to sort of start to understand what are the characters or storylines matters, or the content of the book. How does that tie to trends? And that speaks into a really, really exciting data science opportunity that I have to say we just started to sort of like get our heads around. And then alongside content is reach. So we think about books. We can think about books walking in the supermarket, and okay, it's on the bookshelf. You go on Amazon, it's on a page. Go on Audible, then you get to choose what content as well. How do we bring those books to each of those platforms? And I think very helpful. Our C-suite leadership have handed a really good mission, for us to sort of understand, help us to sort of motivate us to sort of think about how do we tap into this kind of value chain. I would say translating the company mission to the data science mission is that we're here to make sure our books are discoverable, accessible, and available to readers. So those three principles, for me and my interpretation, when I cascade it back to my team, by the way, company mission is we make books for everyone because a book can change anyone. So that becomes, if we think about availability, that means it's anticipating the ups and downs, the sales spikes, the troughs, so that we know what decisions we need to make in terms of stock and print. Accessible, it's about having the right price. We need to protect all the revenue, but also we need to make sure the books are at the right price for our audience. And then I would say discoverable. So it's about, for example, in the online environment, when you search, how do we make sure our books came on top of the search results? So that sort of understand what the company does, then what matters to the business from a more sort of a commercial perspective, and where do we have data points, and therefore what are the data science aspirations that we can tie to these data points, help us to reach this kind of success, and therefore hit these company KPIs. And by the way, this is something that when we sort of start the team and with my team, this is something that we do regularly. We need to be absolutely clear about the KPIs. If we are not clear, we work with our senior leaders to define those KPIs. Then we make sure the KPIs and our data science aspirations marry up and they work with each other to establish the right data science projects to serve the business.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was great. I mean, it's brilliant to hear that kind of like link between the vision actually and the mission of the company, the objectives, strategy and objectives of the business now, and then the work that data science is providing and support, because that's often missed, but that kind of like laser focus on those commercial, in your instance, commercial benefits that you're trying to achieve. And then tying the work that you do to those, that's brilliant. And has that enabled you to kind of then better measure the effectiveness of what you're doing, because you're directly working on the thing that people are trying to achieve?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that on one hand, it helps us to make a very clear case to the business why we are here. We probably have alluded to, we're a publisher. The business has been going on for 100 years without a data science functions. Only in the recent 10 years or so, like all of a sudden, we need data, we need dashboards, we need algorithms. And I think it speaks to, so it's absolutely critical. The business sense there's an importance, and our job, and I see this very important for my team, is to make sure like the business understand why we're here. But that also in return is also, it's very important for our team members, for our data scientists to understand we're not here just because this is a random data science problem. We care about books as much as we care about a fun data science challenge as well. So I think it goes both ways. If I say it's that kind of clarity and trust with the business, but also motivating my team, and then also this is a very important work that we do to make sure that we understand our future opportunities where we can go.
As you say, that kind of the importance of the team knowing that they're working towards something that's of value, but also that you've got some interesting and meaty commercial challenges that require some meaty and interesting and commercial data science models to be built. So you've got that like nice hopefully it enables you to kind of like satisfy the thirst for interesting work with the thirst for doing the important work.
Absolutely.
How as you were talking through about kind of some of those strategic priorities that you talked through there, I was wondering how open authors are to being shaped by the understanding of the consumer, because I've done some work in sort of the entertainment and musical theatre space. I've talked before about that on the show, but and there's a this art, it's an art, right? There's people who are
Yeah.
artists creating brilliant work, music or writing,
Mm.
and often the way there that creativity comes from is all sorts of angles, and but all of a sudden there's this data thing saying, hang on, we
Yeah.
know what your audience wants, we know what the data's telling us that the demand is here, and you're writing a book about X, but actually we need about Y. And how much are authors open to that kind of discussion, or the editorial team, if that's who you might talk to, or just generally, how open are
Yeah.
people to that kind of blending of
Yeah.
data and understanding and insight to just the
Yeah.
creativity of creating some really interesting work?
Yeah. I think this is a very important principle that we sort of work with the business. It's um, what's the role? What role does data play
Yeah.
in a creative
Mm.
business? And I think it can also tap into a wonders about, well, it's data science, AI, and instinct of editors, like
Yeah.
this one like go over the other, or like do they coexist? And I think where I would say my stance with the business and our key stakeholders is that there's a level of when I can capture something as a data point, that's already history.
Yeah.
That has already happened in the past. All we can do is to give you the information and insights into what we think based on what happened in the past.
Mm.
These are the likely trends that is happening.
Yeah.
And it's very important, absolutely critical that we respect as the data science team, to respect that this is a business been running for literally over 100 years. We
Mm.
have a lot of experienced editors, like they know how to work the market, they to tap into the needs of our readers. And so I think that we need to be very clear with our colleagues in the editorial, or like working with the authors, is that the role data plays here is to give another voice.
Mm.
We're in no business to say, okay, based on our predictions, you have to publish your books with this particular storyline, or
Yeah.
and we need to respect that level of creativity. And I think that's very important, sort of when we think about ethics and AI,
Yeah.
the role AI plays in future, especially in our business. That's where I put a pretty strong stance, and that is something that my entire team of data scientists are absolutely aligned.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, you all of the conversation we're having, I get this sense of a kind of real, I don't know, like attachment to the purpose and understanding and an empathy to the kind of the craft that you're in,
Yeah.
which is books, rather than data science in a way. And yes, you're doing a technical thing of data science and providing this really great and powerful capability, but as you say, you
Yeah.
respect the kind of environment that you're in, and as should
Yeah.
anyone in any industry. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued, therefore, to sort of, I think, as we start to think about wrapping up, is kind of the makeup of your team. Like, who have you got? What kind of people do you have? Have you focused on people who are from the arts, people that are from writing backgrounds? Have you focused on very heavy sort of technical data science? Have you got some kind of blend? So yeah, a bit about
Yeah.
your team and how it's made up would be really interesting to hear now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we call ourselves data science team, but I would say a half of my team have the data scientist job title.
Right.
I have data engineers. I also have data artists, and also have a head of data product, as well as a technical lead through the data science and data engineering space. The way I set up the team, I think it speaks to um, the importance that we operate in this in a business, is that uh, we talk about the importance of delivering value and landing ourselves in the organization to clearly demonstrate where data science is, where data science helps the business to grow.
Mm.
And we need not only people who could build machines and generate recommendations, commercial recommendations, but we also need to land them
Mm.
with the business.
Real world, yeah.
And yeah, and there, not all of us came from STEM background. We need a data artist to actually like bring our algorithm recommendations and evaluation of our performances to the business in a very powerful visual way.
Right.
It could be through dashboards, it could be through infographics, but it's to demonstrate the impact, to build trust. And we also have colleagues in our team from a linguistics and a literature background,
Right.
because we need communicators. We need to translate what we're trying to do in data science and tie them with the commercial input and ensure that it's a part of the commercial success. And we need to bring people in because we are, yes, we're data scientists, we build machines and AI and algorithms, but at the end of the day, we're humans. We're in a business where our products is to address needs of humans. So we need to make sure that human angle is always there in everything that we do.
It's that makeup is great and fascinating. I can see how those pieces of the jigsaw sort of fit together. But did it evolve into that? Were you clear sort of early on? And where did you start? Did you start with making sure you had strong technical capability, or did you start with making sure you had that deep understanding and empathy for books and business, or did you start with where how did that evolve? Because I imagine you've sort of got to this point and there'll be an evolution from here, but where did that come from?
Yeah, it's definitely an evolution. And I think it's also a journey that both us in the data science team as well as the business create that kind of mutual understanding and navigating together, like what are the new demands on the horizon. So some of the things that we have to look into in the future. We start off with just me, two analysts, and our job is to look at pricing. But that growth tap into, okay, now the business realized, well, we are the people with the same skill sets that we can address all the different projects that we mentioned above, and the growth starts from there. But I think that's a very strong element. It's because we always work very closely with our colleagues who are making those commercial decisions. And they start to understand the value of data, and we have more new hires coming into the business with a with much stronger understanding of data as well. And that need of communications definitely evolved, and it's more of like a realization. I would say halfway through my journey here so far.
Yeah, great. And where do you just sort of thinking forward then, where's the focus, where's the priority, either from a team perspective or where you think you're most likely to support the business?
I think probably a stronger focus in terms of understanding how text, qualitative and quantitative data comes together,
right,
to support the business growth. And then also, if we look into on the technical aspect of things, the role a data scientist or the role as a data engineer, how does that evolve into some elements of cloud, MLOps? How do we bring that into the business to support these quite meaty commercial objectives that we need to deliver?
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, fascinating. And so love hearing about all this. And of course we've supported Penguin Random House over the last couple of years in enabling you to do your work, and it's been a great organization to be engaged with. So but no, great to get into this kind of lens of the conversation and open it up, because I think the work you're doing, the way you've approached it, more importantly, I think is there's a lot to learn for a lot of organizations, I think. So I just thank you for coming on the show, sharing and letting us into your world a little bit, into the world of books.
Yeah, no, this is a really great this is a really great opportunity. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show again, and thanks everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed hearing about books, hearing about publishing, hearing about data science, and we will catch you again soon.